Hey, this is the Metal Jesus here, and today I'm going to talk about some of my favorite, odd, unusual parts of my video game collection. Now, these aren't necessarily the most, valuable or, even necessarily the most rare. They're just the ones that I just think that are kind of interesting and neat. I've collected them throughout the years, and I just kind of want to share them with you. It's going to be all over the gamut, and this is probably going to be, multi-parter. Maybe I'll do another one of these, a couple months from now, since I just have a lot of stuff and I have a lot of access to stuff through friends and things like that. So, but before I begin, I want to thank some of the feedback and the subscriptions that I've gotten recently off of YouTube. The response to my channel has been really positive. I really appreciate the feedback and the support that a lot of people have given me. So thank you very much. I hope to continue on and just get better and better at these things. So without further ado, let's go. All right, so the first thing I want to show you guys is something that's pretty neat. I got this while working at Sierra Online, the video game company that was huge in the 80s and 90s, and that is the Sierra newsletter. Now, what's unusual about this is that it is winter 1988. This is a classic sort of, document of what was going on in video games in 1988, put out by Sierra Online. They used to put these out to sort of, in the fans to let them know of upcoming games, talk to people who make them, and there's just some really cool stuff in here. If you are an old school gamer like me, you'll recognize some of the stuff like Gold Rush. There's Sierra talks about shipping new titles for the Apple IIgs. That's a classic system right there. There's a rumor mill in here where they talk about how there's going to be a new Space Quest 3 coming really soon, and that they're going to, for the soundtrack, they're going to use the guy from Supertramp. Now, if you know the band Supertramp, then you are an old school retro gamer right there. There's an interview with Ken Williams. They talk about some of the sales that games were getting at the time. For instance, they mentioned that 3 Sierra games had sold over 100,000 units. Now, 100,000 units today is not a big deal, but again, back in the day, King's Quest 4, Police Quest, and Leisure Suit Larry were selling 100,000 copies. That was big news. And something to be really proud of. A lot of really interesting stuff in here. Obviously, I can't go over all of it. They talk about Manhunter. One of the interesting things, I think, to me, is that there's an ad in here and an article about the AdLib music synthesizer card, which was an add-on card that people could buy for their PCs to get stereo sound on their computer. And this was back whenever a lot of people just simply had the PC speaker for sound. And Sierra has always been about trying to push the technology to make better games and have a better experience for gamers. And so they were really pushing better sound at the time. While I worked at Sierra in 1995, Sierra was really focused on the 3D video card technology, and they actually released a Sierra branded video card called the Rendition card. I don't know if many people remember that. I don't think it sold very well, but it was an attempt by Sierra to since they had a lot of clout in the industry, to push that technology. It'd be almost like Electronic Arts today selling a Electronic Arts branded video card, and you would go and buy that because you knew their games would support it. So this is one of the things I want to show. I'll zoom in and show you some better photos here, including a wall poster for King's Quest 4. Very cool. All right, well, while we're on the subject of Sierra, I got to show you my classic mouse pad with Leisure Suit Larry, how to pick up clicks. Great stuff there. I think it's funny that today you don't need a mouse pad, and if you're really young, you might be wondering why the hell would people buy something like this. All I would say is that when the mouse first came out, they had a little ball on the bottom, and that ball did not always work on every surface. And so mouse pads at first were really bland, and they started branding them and making them collectible. So this is a very cool sort of Leisure Suit Larry mouse pad. Another thing I found that I thought was kind of cool is that if you were an Atari 2600 collector, games back in the day would have a logbook that you could record your favorite scores. This one's kind of beat up. This is my original, actually, from 1979, 80. I didn't actually put very many scores in here, But it's pretty neat that they used to do this. You know, obviously there was no way to save your high scores on the original Atari, so you had to document it somehow. All right, and while we're on the subject of the Atari 2600, I was thrilled to find this game. Now, it's not really rare, and I don't care. I just love this game as a kid. I was thrilled to actually find the original box for Montezuma's Revenge featuring Panama Joe for the Atari 2600 in the box. Again, I know this isn't super rare. I just don't care because it's got the original manual, it's got the game, plays perfect. I think I paid $1 for this. I was, shocked. It's always neat whenever you find some childhood game that you lost years ago. I sold my original Atari years ago, but to find it and just sort of relive that. When I look at this, it's really weird. I'm like all of a sudden 10 years old again. It's so trippy. All right, moving up in a couple years is one of my favorite figures given to me by a friend. It's the original Warcraft. It's the grunt from that, and he just looks killer. I don't know if this is really rare or not. It is definitely, the collection one. I don't really collect this stuff, for monetary value. I just think that it's kind of neat having it. But this is definitely something that I always hangs on my wall, and people who now are into World of Warcraft see it and they just think it's awesome. So I like this too. All right, and finally, I'm going to show off one of the things that's probably the most rare on my Xbox 360, and that is the official E3 2005 Xbox 360 faceplate. This is the most rare faceplate that has ever been released. And the reason for that is because you couldn't buy them. The only way you could get them was to attend the E3 Expo in 2005. I was lucky enough to get one. This is an original. It's not a duplicate. I know people sell duplicates online. This is actually from that. I've had it since day one. I've had it so long, actually, that it's odd for me to see the new Xboxes, the plain white ones, because they just look like they're missing that green part on the side. So it's definitely been a part of my Xbox experience since day one, and I really like the design. I think it's pretty cool. And I've gone to 3 different E3s. I used to run a video game website, and because of that I was allowed to go down and attend, and I got to tell you, I absolutely loved it. I did a road trip with a really good friend of mine and my wife at the time each year, and E3 2005 was an interesting year because the PlayStation 3 was officially announced by Sony. Nintendo that year also announced the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Micro, if I remember right. Gears of War was officially announced, and the graphics were blowing people away. Also, too, if you remember, Elder Scrolls Oblivion was playable on the floor, and that was the first time people actually got to play Oblivion after seeing the amazing screenshots. Ton of good stuff that year. So, if you ever get a chance to go to E3, I highly, highly recommend it. It's such a blast. So that's a very quick look at some of the things in my collection. Obviously I have a lot more. I'll probably do another one of these in a month or two. I would love to see other gamers sort of rare, odd, fun stuff. It doesn't have to be expensive or really super, valuable. Just kind of the more quirky stuff that you have in your collection that you like to share. All right, well, thanks for watching.